Alright, it's been a minute since the last story. I figure it's time again. I'm going to tell you a story about my great-grandpa, who we called Opa. We had Oma and Opa. Now, in my dad's side of the family, which is the side that I talk about, both of his sets of grandparents were brewers. One side did beer and sodas, root beer type thing, and the other side did the hard liquor and actually had a still. As far as I know, his still, or the family's still, is still hidden inside a false wall in a barn out on the plains of eastern Colorado somewhere. I don't know. I think the barn is long gone. But this was during Prohibition and they had to hide everything that they were doing. But being very thrifty people, they took what was left over of like the field corn and the barley and whatever was being harvested on the farm, and that's what they used to make the liquor, which is fine and dandy. No, Opa was doing a batch of something very strong, and he put it in the still and was getting ready to actually do the distilling process. And so he had the mash, and the mash, for those of you who don't know, is what's left after the grain itself actually ferments. So it's very alcoholic grain, essentially. And being very thrifty, he didn't want the mash to go to waste. The entire family was getting ready to go to church one Sunday. Being the good Catholics that they were, they went to Mass every Sunday. And Oma was having a heck of a time getting all the kids ready. And she sent Opa out to, go slop the hogs. And all of the farmyard, the fowl, the geese and chickens and guineas and everything else, they would just get into the hog's mash and eat out of the mash. Which is fine, or mash, out of the slops, which is fine. That's just what they did. And anyway, Opa went out, and instead of just throwing the mash away and wasting it, he thought it would be a great idea to go ahead and slop the hogs with it, because why would you want that grain to go to waste? So he went out and fed the hogs, and everybody piled into the buggy, because this was before cars were a thing, and before they were widely popular. They got into the buggy. You had the horses hitched up, and they all went off to Mass, and Mass being an hour-long thing, and then they had to drive back, and they pull into the yard, and Oma looks around. The pigs are falling over and can't stand up. The chickens are weaving back and forth. The geese are trying to fly, and it's just really not working well. There was a lot wrong in the barnyard, basically. And she turns around, and she looks at Opa, and her eyes narrow to these little slits. And he's not looking at her at all, but he pulls the team up to the house, wraps the reins around the brake bar on the wagon. Very carefully, very slowly, very calmly gets down off of the wagon, and then immediately runs as fast as he can to the opposite side of the barnyard, because he knows he's faster than she is, and she won't be able to catch him. Evidently, she was not as thrilled with the pre-cured hams as he thought she would